All right. So we just had last week's episode. We kind of were previewing the NBA. What the playoffs is here. Remember, I told you I'm super excited. This is it. This is what I'm looking for. I don't give a damn about 82 games during the season. I don't care about the Christmas Day games. I don't care about the MLK Day games. I don't care. Give me NBA playoffs. Now, with that being said, I'm not necessarily a fan of the current setup. I still think that the first round doesn't need to be 7 games. I think the first round can probably go like 5 because really I find myself like, all right, first round matchups, maybe they're intriguing, but for the most part, I'm just like ready. Okay, come on, let's win these in 4, win these in 5, so we can get to the real stuff. So I would much rather than be interesting, a little more interesting to me than be in 5 because now, or even 3, because now you mess around in that lower seeded team wins game 1, and it's like, oh shoot, like they got to go win 2, and they got to go on the road for game 2. Yeah, that you'd probably see a lot more upsets if the first round was 3 games, 5 maybe, but definitely 3. But that's okay. That's okay. So NBA playoffs is here. We have all of our standings now are done. Remember, I was talking to you guys that Mavericks could be the 4 seed or the 5 seed, and da. We got all the matchups. Everything is here. Okay. So, like I mentioned, we have a lot of big names in the playing game. Steph and the Warriors, once again, for like the third year in a row or whatever it is, like third out of 4 years, whatever it is, pretty much almost every year the play-ins existed, the Warriors have been in it. The Lakers have been in it. And they're in it again. But the Lakers got the Pelicans, who they blew out on the last game of the season, which is kind of crazy because if the Pelicans would have won, they could have avoided the play-in and we'd have had the Suns in there, which would have then been KD, Booker, Beal, Bron, AD, and Steph all in the play-in game. But anyway, in the play-in tournament. But anyway, so you got the Lakers and the Pelicans. The winner of that gets, here's your present for we're winning the 8-7 game. You get the Denver Nuggets. You get the Nuggets. There is this thing going around. Shout out to Nick Wright of the What's Right with Nick Wright podcast, as well as FS1 First Things First. One of my favorite media personalities to like listen to his podcast, his show, stuff like that. He said that the Lakers' best chance to make it far is they're going to have to go through the Nuggets, and the best time to play them is round 1 because that's like the round where everybody's getting 2, maybe even 3 days off. Lakers are an older team, so they can be fresh, get those breaks in between, but they need to win, right? They need, obviously, because to get the Nuggets, to get the 7 seed, they got to win the play-in game. But you don't want to play the play-in game, lose, have to play 2 days later, to where if you win, you start your first round series against the number 1 seed 2 more days later, which is the young Thunder who want to run up and down the court. I don't really think that it really matters whether they play the Thunder or if they were to play the Wolves. Like, I personally think that the Lakers are going to win their first round series if they're playing everybody but Denver. I think Denver's the only team that has a chance to beat the Lakers in the first round. So it'll be interesting because I don't think the Lakers, if they play round 1, I promise you the Lakers don't get swept again. That's not going to happen. The Lakers don't get swept. I asked you guys this last week. I'll ask you again. Are the Nuggets inevitable? Because as long as we've been watching the NBA, only one force has been inevitable, and that's Mr. LeBron James. So we're going to find out if the Nuggets are inevitable, but I don't think the Thunder can beat them. I don't think the Timberwolves can beat them, and it's really the LeBron James effect. But the Nuggets sweeping him, there will not be a sweep, right? The Pelicans, they weren't up for the moment. They were there. The Suns had a tough schedule. The Pelicans weren't up for the moment. Neither were the Kings. We'll talk about the Kings here shortly. So I'm going Lakers with that one. So we'll get Lakers Nuggets first round, which will be a great first round. And then you got Warriors and Kings, which if you're the Warriors, you should be happy because what you didn't want is the 9-10 game being the winner take all game, and you had to play the Lakers, right? Now, granted, you can beat anybody any given night as the Lakers, as so can the Lakers, but every single time LeBron and Steph match up in these play-in games, the Lakers get the better of them because the Lakers are just too big. It's really just a matter of, okay, is Anthony Davis making mid-range shots tonight or not? But so the Warriors didn't want that smoke. So now you can avoid the Lakers. Well, assuming the Lakers win. Now the Lakers lose, you know. So you got the Warriors, you got the Kings. The Kings were also another team who weren't up to the task. They shouldn't have been in the playing game at all. They went like 1-5 in their last 6 games or something like that. Yeah. So Kings are reeling. But it'll be a good game. It'll be a rematch of, what was it, 2 seasons ago or was it last season where the Warriors beat the Kings in 7? Oh, it was last season because the Kings were the darlings and the Warriors got them first round and got them up out of here. So they get a chance to get some get back. And I guess I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go Kings, but because it is in Sacramento, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the Warriors win. And if the Warriors play the Pelicans are also too big. But Draymond's a good X factor, a good, cancel out for Zion. And when I say cancel out, Draymond's not going to come put up the same number Zion puts up. But Draymond's one of the rare people who has a better chance of guarding Zion than most. Most people are too small to guard him at the forward spot, and they're too slow to guard him at the power forward spot. So, that tends to happen. Draymond is another tweener, as you know, he likes to always talk about how he was labeled a tweener coming out of college. All right, dog, we get it. But anyway, sorry, that's another story from the time. Anyway, so I think that's a good matchup. And then so I think it'll be Kings and Pelicans for a chance to play the 1 seed, which is the Thunder. And I quite frankly do not give a damn who wins that. I just don't. I guess if I had a preference, I'd choose Kings. I think Kings versus Thunder is a lot more fun to watch than Pelicans versus Thunder. But then again, it's Zion. So anyway, that's the West. Other matchups in the West, Clippers and Mavericks. Hello. Luka's I think it was his first 2 playoff appearances. One was in the bubble, one was after the bubble, beating the Clippers. It was the Doc Rivers-led Clippers. That matters. It was the Doc Rivers-led Clippers. Now it is the Tyronn Lue-led Clippers, but it's still Paul George and Kawhi. There is no Montrezl Harrell anymore. There is no Lou Williams anymore. No Pat Bev anymore. But there's no Nicholas Batum anymore. But it's the Clippers. So that's gonna be interesting. I think the Mavericks are gonna get them boys up out of here. Kyrie and Luka, they're gonna get them boys up out of here, and then. But Russ is back, and the Clippers play well when Russ is playing off the bench. They play well. They do. And then you got the Timberwolves and the Suns, which is also a great matchup because you got Ant-Man, you got the Slim Reaper and Kevin Durant with Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. It's going to be a lot of shit talking. You got Rudy Gobert. I don't know if Karl-Anthony Towns is playing. I don't really know what's going on with that. But that's a huge blow. I mean, I understand that they still are playing well. They still play well without him. But when it comes to the playoffs, it becomes about getting buckets. You have to be able to get buckets, right? And no disrespect, Naz Reid's not. When it gets tight, I need more than just Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves without Karl-Anthony Towns are just the Utah Jazz when it was Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. That's the exact team that they are. And of course, they also have Mike Conley. Look at that. Yeah, that's it. That's it. The Minnesota Timberwolves without Karl-Anthony Towns are just the Utah Jazz when they were 1 seed and not going nowhere. So that's going to be huge. And you just got the Suns who put all their chips in this year, kind of had a disappointing year, but then they just steadily were just kind of rolling. And next thing you know, they're the 6th seed. They got out of the play-in. They're solid. So those are 2 matchups I'm excited to watch. And then, of course, Lakers Nuggets as well. And then you go over to the East, and usually the East is not where the fun is, but let's be honest, I'm East Coast, right? So I will be watching the East games. I will be struggling to catch the West games. That just is what it is. Also, of course, next week when the playoffs start, I'm going to be out of town in Florida. Oh, yeah. PSA, by the way, there will be no episodes next week because I am out of town. But we'll get back in a couple weeks after. So just another thing, my bad. But anyway, playing game. This is kind of bullshit, but the 76ers and the Heat are playing the playing game, the 7-8 game, because the Sixers lost and dropped so far in the standings once Embiid got hurt. And then he came back. And so now a team that is way better than where they finished is the 7 seed. So what did Milwaukee do? Milwaukee said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and sit some guys. We're not playing Philly round well. We don't want that. Look, man, like I said, y'all keep telling me Doc Rivers is a great coach. I'm waiting to see that. Doc Rivers didn't want no parts of Philly. Milwaukee didn't want no parts of Philly. The fans don't want no parts of Philly. Milwaukee said, we're going to go to that 6 seed so we can play the team that is brand new here in Indiana, who, by the way, has been cooking them all season. But that's neither here nor there. It's playoff time. Things change. Things are different. Milwaukee is, those are veterans. They have won rings. Dame hasn't, but Giannis has. Middleton has. Brook Lopez has. Bobby Portis has. These guys, they know what time it is. They know the assignment. This is going to be new for Indiana, but that crowd is going to be hyped because Indiana's back in the playoffs since, I want to say, Oladipo. And of course, before that, Paul George. So it's still going to be electric over there. But Milwaukee, it's back to the point. Milwaukee knew we don't want Philly, and we don't want Miami. We don't want either one, right? So those two are going to slug it out for the opportunity to play the Knicks and send the Knicks home. And everyone's excited about the Knicks, especially everybody in New York. But they're going to go send the Knicks home, whichever team. And then because the Knicks don't have Julius Randle, and that really sucks. But also, there's a gift and a curse with having him. And then lastly, you got the Bulls and the Hawks, and we don't care. Right? That's the 9-10. We'll just go ahead and say the Hawks beat the Bulls. Now, remember the Bulls were 4 seconds away from beating the Heat last year, I think, to be the 8 seed. Because this goes back to that magic of March Madness. It's only one game. It only takes one game. So with these playing games, you might mess around and have the Hawks beat the Bulls, and then the Hawks catch the Sixers slipping, right? Or the Heat slipping, whichever one. And the Hawks mess around and get in because they only got to win one game, right? But I don't think it's going to happen. Sixers, Heat, it doesn't really matter to me which way it goes. Obviously, that game is important to them because they don't want Boston. Between Boston, New York, and Milwaukee, of course they want New York because New York was supposed to be the 4th best team in this conference behind the Sixers, Boston and Milwaukee. So you want New York. You're hoping you get to play number 4. So if you're the Sixers, you're like, ooh, this is a chance to play New York, get them out of here early, and then we'll go play Milwaukee, who's going to be running up and down a track meet with Indiana. And then if you lose, though, then you're like, well, now we got to play again against the Hawks or the Bulls. You probably should beat them, but then you got to go play Boston. So they don't want Boston. So that game's going to be pretty intense. And the only other matchup I haven't talked about is Cleveland and Orlando. Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs. And, there's just no telling how good they are. Mitchell missed a lot of time. Garland missed some time. Those are 2 guards. So there's just no telling. I don't think Cleveland's up for it, man. I don't think that they're built for this time basketball. I think that the Cavs and the Knicks are similar in how they want to play. The Cavs play that in the regular season, and they can't really sustain that in the postseason when everybody's playing that way, while the Knicks play this way all the time. So Cavs and Orlando. Orlando's a nice story, as I mentioned before. They're the 5 seed. I think Orlando's going to beat them. Orlando's got a top defense in the league. Orlando's got size. They can score. I think that they're going to win. And so because of that, I'm actually really interested in Orlando and Cleveland. I'm really interested. And let's see, when do the playoffs start? Because now that I think about it, I might be in Orlando. I'm in Orlando all next week. So whenever the playoffs start, that's a little interesting because I might just be in town and I'm going to be very curious, like what the city of Orlando, like the vibe out there. So their first game they'll play on the 20th. Blah blah blah. Oh, they don't have the rest schedule, but if they play on the 20th, that means they play 2 or 3 days later, which will be the 22nd or 23rd, and then they'll play 3 days later, 26th. So yeah, I'll be in Orlando for at least one of those games. I don't know if I'm gonna go, but I'll be there. So yeah, man, you got some interesting first round matchups. You got Luka against the Clippers, and he's been their Achilles heel. Luka's gonna perform and outperform, and I'm kind of hoping that I'm looking at my papers to see the matchups again. I'm hoping the Mavericks win because I'd love to see Dallas and Oklahoma City. And then you got on the the other side, you got Nuggets and either Suns or Timberwolves. Timberwolves gave the Nuggets the most trouble last year, but you got the Suns as well. And we'll just see what the Lakers, Steph, and LeBron do. They're always going to be on primetime, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side, man, like I said, Orlando and Cleveland's the one that really intrigues me, and then Philly, Miami. So it's playoff time, man. Like I said,